Welcome, dreamers, to the podcast Aligned by M and M. We're here today to talk about what it means to do business differently. It's really funny, actually. Emily and I were just talking before this call, and we know our topic, but it's led into a bit of a different topic. So when we started unpacking what does it mean to do business differently, we realized that at the core of that for us is leading with love. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to unpack kind of our leadership style, why we love it, why we feel it's very effective for teams and within our agency. We'll use that as an example as well. But yeah, we're just going to kind of unpack some of these things, these kind of catchphrases that we use regularly in our business, which is doing business differently, feminine forward leadership. We're going to unpack that a little bit because we have actually evolved to encompass more than just femininity in our leadership style. And we'll talk about where that came from, why we chose that in the first place, and kind of what we've evolved to now. And we're going to talk about, of course, authenticity and how that plays a role in leadership style and inclusivity and how we really try to be an agency that is fully inclusive. And we'll talk about the different subcultures we cater to. And we'll wrap it up with a few takeaways for how you can lead with love and start doing business differently in your own company or whatever your leadership role is. So, welcome Emily Saylor to the
Yeah,
podcast.
thanks.
The other
Amazing intro.
M to my M.
Yeah.
And yeah, let's just dive in. So,
Good.
Emily, what does
Mhm.
it mean
Mm.
to
Mm.
do business differently? And
Mm.
yeah, just touching on what we talked about a little bit of, yeah, what that means for us and how it leads us to leading with love.
Okay, amazing. Oh gosh, so many things come up when you say that. I think that what it means to me to do business differently is to first tap into my core and who I am and what feels really good to me and being authentic, right? And so when I think about that, I think about the relationships that I have with people and how when you're in a leadership position, your team and your relationship with your team is so integral to how you conduct business and to how you show up for your products or service, whatever that it is that you are sharing with the world, that it really starts with your team first. And I think that, yeah, I think it's so important that we listen to ourselves first, our intuition first, and what feels really good to us first. And really, yeah, pay attention to our people and what they need and their needs and what they're looking for from us and ensure that we're showing up for ourselves first and then our people second is what's coming up for me.
Yes. Yes, that's amazing. And it's so different, right? Because many businesses, successful companies, corporations don't consider much of any of that at all.
True.
It's
Yeah, very
about
true. Which is
profit
what
and
yeah,
productivity, right?
yeah,
And that's the
yeah.
world we've been in for a long time. And I think, you know, talking about the feminine forward leadership style that we originally coined for ourselves, that's evolved for us. And it started though because Emily and I both came out of working in the quote unquote real world, more
Mhm.
traditional jobs, albeit mine was very short lived because I knew I couldn't really do that. I became an entrepreneur pretty quickly. But in the more traditional roles and jobs and companies, it is very masculine forward. And what that means is a bit more rigid, very productivity
Yeah,
focused, very structured, not a lot of room for emotions or
yeah,
flow or flexibility even. It's very like 9 to 5, show up, do
yeah.
the same thing, clock out, go home, wake up, repeat. And if you tuned into our podcast all about the menstrual cycle in business,
Mhm.
you might have learned that our world was created with men in mind. So, like going back in history, men were really the original business people. We all know it took women longer to enter the workforce. And by the time we did, it was very structured and set up for men. And so when we say feminine forward, it's like counterbalancing that, which means like leading with the things that were not necessarily accepted or allowed or the norm in traditional business. So, leading with love and empathy and understanding and caring about our team's needs and everything Emily just explained to
Mhm.
us when we started that kind of fell under feminine leadership style. And now, as the world has evolved, and the world is evolving into kind of a non gendered system
Mhm.
where we're breaking the rigid norms, right? And so when we first started, feminine was like very like against the grain of like, oh yes, like we're gonna be a woman powerhouse team. We're gonna
Yeah.
allow our emotions. We're gonna talk about our menstrual cycle. We weren't allowed to do in traditional business. And that's what doing business differently was for us when we started. And now, it's more about existing in the in between and being able to flex and flow between the masculine and the feminine, or just two sides of the spectrum. It doesn't necessarily have to be
Mhm.
masculine or feminine. Because now, as we're unpacking the rigid systems of masculine
Mhm.
and feminine, we're realizing like even those systems had lots of conditioning and lots put on
Yeah.
us as a society that we have to be that way. So now I would say that we're more like in the middle and we're very like accepting of all types of leadership. And I think we found ours in the middle of that. And really, like, our words now is our authenticity and inclusivity.
Yeah.
And so when we say feminine forward, I just wanted you to know the history of that. But really, yeah, like what we're really meaning is leading with love, leading with heart,
Yeah.
showing up with heart. And that's
Yeah.
really, I think both Emily and I, that's our goal in business and in life is showing up to everything we've created with a full heart and ready to give, giving to ourselves first, like Emily said, and then having that capacity to give to others.
Absolutely. I think that it's so funny and interesting when you say all that because I literally cannot imagine functioning any other way than leading with love and empathy and feeling and inclusivity and acceptance and allowance and like all of those things, right? Even because as you guys know, I also work in the corporate world. So I very much experienced the extreme polarity of like some teams are very masculine, some teams are very feminine, and then grateful to be in a very creative world where like all sides are very much accepted. But like it's so interesting when you talk about like how typically humans function from that very masculine and it's like about goals and productivity and end result and action and I talk about that as if it's a negative. That's all very important. But I see our superpowers as being that like the unseen, the feeling. I just can't imagine existing in a world where that's not accepted and that's not allowed and that's suppressed and all of that. And so just know that if you are existing in that world right now where that isn't accepted and you do feel like, you're clocking in at the start of a day and you have to get all the things done and there's no room for being yourself, that you can be the seed of change in your world. And because I feel a little bit like I was and like we have been for so many people and yeah, I think that it's because we just literally couldn't imagine
Yeah.
existing any other way. And so what started out as like maybe a bit of resistance of, oh, F the masculine. Yeah,
Putting it
exactly.
down.
Yeah. It just grew into, no, actually, I get to choose differently. I get to show up differently. And then seeing the evolution and what we have created and how we get to show up now every single day, just being ourselves and loving the people we're surrounded with and starting our day with like, how are you feeling? Like, how did you sleep last night? Like, how are your jobs feeling?
Yeah.
Like, I every single time that I love this, but I love witnessing this. Every single time that someone delivers a
I
lot
know what
of
you're about
work
to say.
in the container, yeah, in our Slack channel, it starts out with, "I hope this isn't overwhelming.
Yeah,
Whenever you have time, take a look." Like, it's so feelings
yeah.
focused, and that started out from a place of awareness of I don't want to exist in a world where that isn't allowed. And we were the change, but it's been a growth and an evolution process. So if you find yourself in a situation right now where it's like, oh my God, I can't even imagine talking about my cycle at work
Yeah.
or whatever that looks like, you get to be the seed of change and create
Yeah.
a ripple effect because people are drawn to it. People are so grateful to
Yeah.
see someone in business that is showing up comfortable and confident as themselves, leading with love. That feels so good because that's the natural way. We are love. And so then you naturally bring it out in people. I've had conversations with so many people where they just like pour out their heart to me and then they're like, "Wow, like I don't know why. I just feel so
Yes.
compelled to share everything." They're like, "I don't do this with anybody else." And it's because I accept myself exactly as I am, mess and all, or whatever, feelings and all. And so other people feel comfortable to show up exactly as they are too. And the beauty is that when we show up exactly as ourselves, that's when we are truly contributing and creating to, yeah, like creating the best outcome, the best result. It's not about meeting the deadline,
Right.
being the most productive, steady from
Right.
9 to 5.
Yeah. Because we're humans and we have
Yeah.
emotions and feelings. And yeah, you hit on so many points there. So being the seed of change, I think that's so spot on. I definitely found myself in a place at one point where it was like so rigid, not any room for me being me. And it does have to start with you because when you shift your beliefs and your mindset, you start attracting
Mhm.
things that
Oh,
support
yes.
that, and that's a whole manifestation podcast. But
Yes.
it does go like that, and I think also to summarize what you're saying is, like, the more authentic you show up too, the
Mhm.
more inclusive you allow for your community, your workplace, the people around you feel safe and comfortable to also be themselves. And so, although Emily and I started a business, we've mentioned it, Dream Agency, with these ideals in mind, it definitely took us years to get here. I had my own first business that was completely built on like masculine
Oh, yeah.
energy
Me too,
because I thought that was
honestly.
the
Yeah.
only way to be successful as an
Yeah.
entrepreneur. And in your journey of life, you can definitely have regrets. I don't like the saying no regrets. I think we feel things and regret things, but I think it all does truly happen for a reason. And within that first company that I built, where I was working 8 hours a day, sometimes like minimum, like sometimes it'd be like 10 hours a day. And it was all just very like goal oriented, checklists, to dos, did not care how I was feeling so much. I would just work out to like suppress it.
Yeah.
Very masculine. Um, and yeah, it really taught me though that this is actually not what I want to be. And like,
Mhm.
how do I incorporate like truly what I want to do? And it also taught me to stop listening. I'm sorry if this is not PC, but to stop listening to the crusty old white men who are dictating all
Yeah.
business advice in the business development world.
Yeah.
And mind you, I was trained by Donald Miller for copywriting, but I had to even then take that and be like, okay, this isn't it for me. Like I really like to interject lots of feeling in my copywriting. And I really found that the business world was pretty much like any advice and guidance that you wanted just directed back to like white men. And that
Mhm.
might be like a really big blanket statement, but it felt really true for me at that time that, like, I could not get out of this world of I really just don't want another dude telling me what to do because it's not working for me. Like, I actually did it all, and now I'm, like, miserable. So, that's when the more feminine leadership evolved for me personally, and it's so true, like, you have to be that seed of change for yourself and decide this is how I want to be. Now, how do I like orchestrate my world around this? And
Mhm.
trusting and having the courage to break through those cycles and patterns on your own, knowing that there's people on the other side that want to hear what you have to say and they want to be a part of what you have to give. And they've been looking for you, honestly. I think the
Yeah.
people who work for Emily and I have been looking for us, and we've been looking for them. And it's become this agency of kindness. Like,
Right.
truly, we are connected at the heart, and that comes first before any deliverable or
Yeah.
goal we reach. It's like, yeah, we show up with first asking each other, like, how do you feel? How are you feeling
Yeah.
today? Because that matters so much. It matters to be able to express it. And it also matters as a leader for me to
Yeah.
know where my team is at today. So if
Absolutely.
someone's having a really crappy day, I'm not going to overload them with new projects.
Because what, like, how effective is that?
Right. That just
Not effective at all.
Right, that's just gonna cause them
Yeah,
to shut down. They're gonna ghost
100%.
you for 2 days, and you're gonna be stressed out. I'm like, "I know this from experience."
Exactly.
Yeah, so
So
maybe let's
funny.
talk about kind of specifics with leading individuals. Emily and I, a big core for our leadership style too is trust, and really
Yeah.
building that
Sure.
trust with each individual person on our team. And I know Emily does this in her corporate job as a leader as well. And we're talking a lot about, it's not so much about the profit and the productivity, but it also is. That's still
Yeah,
a
it
huge
is.
part of it. I think just our approach to getting there is very different. And that's what we can talk about right now.
Eh,
Yeah, how do we build trust, and what types of teams
yeah.
that creates?
I think that on the opposite end of the spectrum of trust is like the micromanager, right? Who's
Yes.
over your shoulder, needs to get done. Where's this? I need to see this, blah, 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 blah,
Hmm.
right? Always breathing down your neck. And sure, you can produce something and meet those expectations. But especially in a world of creativity, where is the space for creativity and inspiration?
Yes.
Where is the space for the brilliant idea that it's totally going to change the game? Like, it's not there. And I think that to be on the other end of the spectrum of trust, like, again, you have to be the leader of it.
Hmm.
So you have to trust yourself and you have to trust your team before they will show up for you. You could be creating goals for your team, right? Okay, this is the goal. Now I leave it to you to complete this in whatever way works best for you. I totally trust you. But if you're meanwhile back here, okay, where is this? And they never deliver on time, they blah, 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 whatever
Yeah.
in the background.
Doubting.
That's not doubting. That's not true trust.
Yeah.
That is and that will suffocate them
Yeah.
and they won't show up and surprise you and amaze you. But if you're like, how's it going? That's incredible. Keep up the amazing work. And oh my God, look at this, what you delivered. Holy shit, this is exactly aligned. And feed that, feed that
Feedback
momentum.
loop. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Then your team is just gonna keep showing up for you, keep blowing your mind, but you have to lead with that trust first. There's a saying that I've heard before, and it's trust isn't given, it's earned, or something like that. And like, I don't believe that. I believe that you lead with trust first.
Yeah.
And and your people will surprise the heck out of you
Yes.
with what they can deliver and how they can show up
Yeah.
and what they can create.
Yeah, because that quote, I know what you're talking about, and that's, like, a very much outdated to
Mhm,
us, like, business
mhm.
paradigm of, "I'm a leader, you have to earn my respect and trust."
Mhm. Yeah.
And Emily and I are like, "No, no, 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 no."
Yeah.
Like, what employee who meets a leader for the first time wants to
Doesn't
earn
respect
their
her.
respect and trust? Like, that doesn't sound fun or feel good. That sounds very fear-based. And yeah, so I think with us, it's I automatically trust the people we hire. Like, I start there. So
Yeah,
they
same.
don't have to earn anything from me. They already have it.
Yeah,
Anyone new who comes in, we've already connected. We've decided that they're a
agreed.
good fit. I now trust you. And if anything, like, maybe there's opportunity to break that trust, but even
Yeah,
like, it doesn't really happen that way because it's so nuanced, because we're humans, right? If
yeah,
someone can't show up to a meeting, I'm not like, "Oh, I don't trust this person anymore." Or if they're like day late on delivering something, I'm not like, "Oh, trust is broken."
yeah,
I then just get curious. Why was it a day late? What was going on for you? Are you okay? Do you need any
exactly.
help? And likely it's because they just have a life.
Yeah.
Someone is a mom. And using Emily's example of the other day, she had to cancel a meeting on me, which the client ended up canceling anyway. So fine,
Yeah.
but I was a little bummed
Yeah.
when Emily canceled, but I wasn't like, oh, no, I don't trust Emily. And her reason for canceling was my son is starting preschool today, and I didn't really factor that into my work calendar. And it's like,
Exactly.
of course, like be with your son. That's such a big moment. There's going to be tears. There's going to be all the things. Like, who am I to stop you from doing that? Let's just adjust. Let's pivot. Let's figure this out. But
Also likely meant to be when the client then
yeah, true.
canceled.
I know. When the client cancels, you just know it wasn't you weren't meant to be there. But anyway, yeah, like I
Anyways.
think we just really start with trust. And it starts
Mhm.
with us as leaders to assume trust and then
Assume
build
the
from
best in
that.
people.
Yes.
I also that's really what it is. Like, people are good. People
People are
are
good.
brilliant. People have
Yes.
so much to give. And
Uh,
if you start from that place, yeah, then it just
yes.
gets better and better.
And on that note, people are brilliant. Likely they have not been given the opportunity
Exactly.
to be brilliant. And so a
Exactly.
big part of how we also do business differently is within our agency, you get to live within your strengths.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what you came
Mm.
in here for. Once we start uncovering everyone's special gifts and talents, you get to like thrive in that. We hired our now podcast manager. We always shout out Anna. We love her. But when she came in, she had marketed herself as like an assistant to stressed out business owners and can handle all those tasks for you. And that's something we were looking for. She comes in, we share that we want to start a podcast. She shares that it's been her dream to be like a podcast producer. And we're like, let's go. Like, let's do
Exactly.
it.
Yeah.
And so this is a really great, this is a really great leadership example, actually. Anna, when she came in the back of my mind as a leader, I'm like, oh, she's going to be our COO. I was like, she's got
Yeah.
she
All
checks
the
all the
skills.
boxes
Yeah.
for being our COO. And that's what I need. I was like, that
Right.
would help me so much to have a COO, someone to help me do all like the admin stuff and all that. As Anna and I's relationship progressed, I think she started to notice I was giving her projects that more fit with that COO role. And so we had to have a very honest conversation, which honestly, we have honest conversations in our Slack channel all the
All
time.
the
Like it's
time.
not a big
Yeah,
deal.
it's
It's
not
very
a big
much the
deal.
norm because
Yeah.
everyone's very kind and coming from a
Yeah.
very good place of I just need to express this, you know.
Yeah.
Anna's motto is actually clear as kind, and we love that. Um and so Anna and I had a conversation and I was like, okay, what would your dream title be here? What do you really want to do? Where do you want to thrive? And to my surprise, it was I really just want to be a podcast manager. Like that is my zone of genius. That's what I want to
Mm.
do. And I was like, okay, I apologize. And I apologized. I was like, I have been giving you projects because I've been assuming a COO role for you, but that is like my wishes for you and it's not what you want. I am sorry. I will pull that back. We're going to take you off all these random projects I put you on. We're going to put you on just the podcast Trello board
Yeah.
and go, girl. You know? And then
Yes.
that's where the trust comes in. It's like,
Yeah.
you know, our goal, it's to do one podcast a month and eventually more. But for right now, it's one podcast a month. And Anna manages every detail that touches the podcast. All we have to do is show up for the time that she's scheduled and put on our calendars. It's a dream process. And it's
Which
because we allowed her to live in her strength.
was our dream. Yeah, and that's
Yep.
just it, is that it's and sorry, I cut you off there,
Yeah,
Em,
go.
but that's the brilliance of it, is that is our dream too. And
Yeah.
of course, when this is truly tapping into my heart and what I wanna do, it aligns with what works for us when we tap into our heart and what we wanna do. It's like,
Totally.
because I remember we used to say, "Oh my gosh, we could have an incredible podcast, but I don't know any of the techie stuff.
Yep.
And like, how can we make that happen?" Neither of us wanted to get into that. And so here is the beautiful, perfect solution
Right.
coming together. And that's what happens when you trust
Yeah.
and you tap into your authentic self and your heart and you lead from your heart, whether you're a leader or whether you are, yeah, coming to the table with an idea for your team as a creator.
Yeah, and I think that's also part of how we do it differently is it's not so narrow-minded. It's very much like expansive. Emily and I love the word expansive. And so,
Mhm, mhm.
if someone on your team shares a similar story of, I'm really interested in learning about this. And from a leader perspective, you're like, no, I hired you for this. Like, how could you want to do something else? I suggest take a step back, take a deep breath, zoom out, realize that a company has infinite roles and things to get
Mhm.
done in any given day. And if someone wants to pivot, it means that they're going to be happier, thriving. You're going to have less managing for that person.
Yeah.
All you have to do is essentially give the tools and what the outcome looks like, and they will get it done because they are passionate, they're motivated, and they're inspired. And to me, that's the types of teams we create is passionate, motivated, and inspired. Like people show up ready and excited to work for
Mhm.
Dream Agency because they're given the projects they want to work on. And of course,
Yeah.
we have like workflows and systems and deadlines, and we do have to check
Mhm.
off boxes, but the boxes are created based on the person. We're not creating boxes and then forcing a person to fit
Yeah.
that.
Ooh, love that. Yeah.
Yeah. So what's next? How else do we do business differently? Yeah, I would love to touch on a point like of inclusivity. I think that's a big part of why people also love working for us is we've really accepted that people are people. Humans are humans and we have feelings and we have emotions and we have lives. And I think that has become such a special place for leading with love, right? So Emily and I guess this was kind of a core of what we wanted to talk about. A question we always ask ourselves in life and in
Mhm.
business is what would love do? What would love do
Yeah.
here? If I were fully embodying love, what decision would I take? What action would I make? How would I respond to this person? And I think that's so huge. And I think that is truly like the core of how we do business differently is we are not here to be mean. I know that sounds silly, but people in business can be like really mean. But
Or
we're
to
like forced,
dictate,
yeah,
I
to
think.
dictate, to control.
Yeah.
We're not here
Yeah.
to just serve our own needs,
Yeah.
right? We're here to help others have their needs met within our
Yeah.
business and cater to them as well. Like it's a very servant leadership style, even. And so, what would love do? And I think that also plays a role in inclusivity. And I don't know if we want another example, but we do have someone on our team who struggles with mental health. And I think in a lot of ways, that can not this specific person, but in general, like, mental health is a huge deal in our society right now,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
it's definitely not talked about enough, and we can definitely do another podcast on it, but there's so much going on in the world, and, like,
Mhm.
to not be attentive to your mental health, like, you're gonna struggle, and
Yeah.
so I recognize that's a theme in the world, and we do have someone on our team who struggles openly with mental health, and so instead of taking her off projects or not giving her a new work or just getting really overly frustrated about it, I instead was like, what would love do? And I
Mhm.
just felt like an open, warm hug. And it's like, how can
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
create like a system and a process for her that feels like an open
Yeah.
and warm hug instead of overwhelming and unmanageable and all the things. And so, we just have had lots of conversations about what this looks like. And essentially, she needs time off, usually like once a month, to take care of herself and her mental health and whatever that looks like for her. And then when she comes back, the issue is usually that she's really overwhelmed trying to catch up. And so it's what would love do? Well,
Mhm.
instead of forcing her into this system and being like, well, you
Mhm.
either do this or you're out,
Mhm. Mhm.
I would never let her go because I love her so much and we love the work that she does. And she has her own geniuses and brilliance.
Yes.
And instead, I was like, okay, let's talk about what you coming back looks like. And I've always given her the time off because we're usually ahead in our work enough. And that's also part of it, getting ahead enough so that she can take time off. But yeah, just through the whole process, it's like, what would love do? And it's never closing off or shunning someone for not being perfect. It's always opening up more to allow for those imperfections because we're just freaking
Yeah.
human. And
Yeah,
I don't know
totally.
why in the traditional business system, it's like you walk into work and you have to drop all humanness and pretend
Right.
like you're perfect and your schedule is perfect and everything at home is perfect and everything inside of you is perfect. And so
Yeah,
really it's just about allowing people to be imperfect and loving them anyway and
absolutely.
creating as a leader, you have the power to create whatever you want. And so
Exactly.
creating systems and processes and having conversations that allow people to feel more seen and more heard, which is a huge part of it anyway. Like most people are just sitting with shame around stuff like that. And so even
Absolutely.
just
Yeah, it's true.
talking with her about it relieves so much pressure and actually allows
Yep.
her to get back to work,
Yep,
which
exactly.
is also how we can kind of close our topics of the types of teams this creates and how it actually does
Yeah.
end up contributing to profit and
Yeah,
productivity.
exactly. Yeah. And it's always there's so much more ease and joy and
Love.
flow. And the end result is greater. It honestly is greater.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because people will show up for you no matter what versus resisting you at all costs.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
seriously.
it ends up being more productive, in my
Yeah,
opinion, and more
agreed. I love that.
profitable
Yep.
because people are with you. And
Yep.
like in this specific person's case, now that we have a system for when she comes back, now she came back this month and produced more than she has in a long time.
Yeah.
And
Totally.
granted, we gave her, more work, but she probably did like 2 months of work in 1
That's
month.
amazing. Yeah.
And granted, she took a week off to take care of her mental health, and I had to be like, "Do not control this,
Yep.
allow,
Yep.
allow, allow.
Allow, allow. Yep.
We're good. We're not, like, behind." And then
Yep.
trusting that when she
Trust.
comes back,
Yep.
she'll be ready, and we have a
And she blew our
process, and
mind.
she blew our minds. Like, she delivered all this stuff, and
Yeah,
we're like,
she
"No
did.
edits. Let's
Yeah.
just keep rolling." I believe truly that the more love you can put into any area of your life, the more
Yeah.
fruitful it becomes, the greater the outcomes, the more
Yep.
epic the wins,
Exactly.
all the good
For
stuff.
everyone.
Yes.
Yep. Amazing, Em. That feels very full circle. Yeah. I think
Yeah.
let's end with our takeaways. So I was thinking about this, and I think that it's something that I spoke about at the very beginning, right? Like yourself first and your people next. And so I think that it's really important to be an effective leader in your life and leader of your own life is to create goals for yourself. But I love looking at goals instead of from a place of like, okay, as a leader, I'm going to start reaching out to my teammates once a day. These are very action oriented goals. It's okay, what if we framed our goals around how we want to feel and how we want our team to feel? So I want to feel inspired every day. I want to feel energized and excited for my day. And I want everyone around me to feel that from me too. And so that's a very different way, different approach of looking at, yeah, our goals for ourselves.
And knowing and working with Emily, that's exactly what happens. Like, anytime she's in
Yes.
Slack, it's just, like, magic and
Oh, God.
momentum and light beams.
I feel it's
Good
funny because
energy.
Em and I always say that before we come on to record a podcast, you're thinking about the action, like, okay, blocking the hour and a half, do our podcast, that sort of thing. And but you have a little bit of resistance. I got to do my hair, my makeup, all this, think about the topic. And then you're like, but I know that as soon as I step on the call and we connect and we feel each other and we feel our energy, I'm gonna be so excited, so inspired, so motivated, so ready, all the things, right? And that's because we lead with love first and feeling first. And
Yes.
that is the beauty. So you're excited to show up
Right.
because it feels so damn good when you do
Totally.
and when you
Like, I
connect.
know if
Yeah.
I'm in Emily's presence, I'm gonna feel those things because it's just how it is. Whether she's
Yes.
having a bad day or a good day, you feel excited and energized and inspired just being in Emily's presence. And I also know that's taken a long time, and
A
it's been
long
like a lifetime of
time.
work essentially for us to be where we're at now. And feels so good and true about who we are. But I think that's
True.
like the best first step is how do I want people to feel when they interact with me? And how do I want to feel when I
Mhm.
interact with people? And it could be different. It doesn't have to be the same. So I love
True.
that. And just a simple journal. And journaling is so powerful. You might write it and forget it, but it's came from your soul onto the paper into the physical
Mhm.
world, and
Mhm.
things will start moving in that direction. And just keeping it in mind whenever you're showing up with your team and putting yourself, I think that's also another small step you could take is whatever your words are, putting yourself in that
Yeah.
energetic state before you get on a call, before you show up at work, before you walk in the door, walk into a meeting,
Mm.
whatever.
Yeah,
And feeling
totally.
that first, and then allowing the world to respond to that instead of you always responding to whatever someone else is putting off. Um,
And that links back to our podcast on Show the Fuck Up. Is that what it's called? Our very first one?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Listen to
Becoming
that.
the dominant
Let's get on that.
vibration.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so my takeaway is a
Yeah.
little similar. I think to be a an authentic leader and whatever leadership style you choose, I truly believe you have to have some sort of spiritual practice because this is stuff you're not going to learn in the traditional business world. Like I said, you're going to get advice from some men. There's a lot of women emerging in the space, and I'm really
Yes.
stoked about it. And you can find it
It's changing
now.
him.
But when I started, I was like, oh my gosh, like looking behind every curtain, like, where's the woman? Anyway, so it starts with you. Like, this is not something that you get advice on or read a blog and know how to be authentic. I really think it starts with a spiritual practice. And I think the next step after you establish your spiritual practice, and that can be many things, and that's a whole other podcast as well, but anything from like meditation to journaling to just sitting with yourself in silence, whatever that may be. I think once you establish that, then like in action takeaway that you can do, um, whenever you're feeling that controlling energy rising of, I need this done. Where is everyone? No one's on Slack. No one's online. This is 2 or 3 days. What is happening? When you feel that rising, acknowledge it. Know that it's there. Don't try to like suffocate it, but acknowledge it. Take a deep breath and literally take a step back. Like, literally take a step back from your computer and then zoom out your brain, zoom out your perspective. Know that in the master plan, the grand scheme of things, this small thing really is not as important as it feels to you right now. And so zoom out, take a
So
step
good.
back, take a deep breath, and then come back and ask, like we were saying, what would love do? Like,
Mm.
what would be a more balanced approach to this? And likely it's something like we've talked about on this podcast. It's something that has to do with like someone being a human, having a real life. So coming back and instead of saying, hey, this is due in 2 days, what are you doing? It's more a softer approach. It's, hey, are you okay? Just checking in with you. How are
Yeah.
things going? And if you really are like authentic in it, then likely someone's going to open up to you and say, actually, I'm just really struggling. My car broke down and, or I don't have Wi Fi, or just all, there's so
Mhm.
many things that go on in our days. And so, really understanding from their perspective what's going on. And then you can remove the roadblocks and remove the challenges that are in the way of getting this thing done much more effectively than just onloading the pressure, onloading
Yeah.
the just urgency. And honestly, it just gets done with so much more ease and it will still
Yeah.
get done, but it's taking that approach of like, how can I help you instead of do this right now?
Yeah.
Because we're all human and we have free will. Like, no one, even as a leader, even as a boss, like, you don't really just get to tell people what to do. Like, they have to choose it? So
Yeah.
just clearing the path so it's easier for them to get there versus just demanding and putting pressure on. So that would be my
Amazing.
takeaway. Take a step back.
Love
Like,
it, and
and let's,
I also have totally envisioned you doing that.
Oh, yeah. Like, not all the time. Because I can just try to have
It's like a
control,
very
and
M
everybody knows
thing.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah, because it's not
amazing.
about me. It's about the team
Yeah.
and the overall everything we're working on, and
And I think it's so important to keep in mind too, so small, like
yeah,
that one thing in the grand scheme of things is so
it's
small.
tiny.
Think of the big picture of what you're
Right,
creating.
right.
Yeah.
And that always helps me. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think you can struggle with being controlling. Like I definitely do.
Mhm.
Like that's part of my work in life is to not be the fixer, to not hold things so tightly. And you can struggle with that and still not make decisions and choices and actions from that place. You can
Exactly.
change your
Yeah.
state very quickly and make new
Yeah.
actions and do business differently.
Differently. Woo!
Thank you so much, dreamers, for tapping in, turning on, and leveling up with us today. May you always remember your true worth, find alignment in every day, and live your dreamiest life. That is our biggest dream for you. You can find us on our website at dreamagency.biz, socials at dreamagencybiz, or email us at emily@dreamagency.biz. Make sure to subscribe, follow, share with those you love, and reach out. We can't wait to connect with you.